and then other people will,
Okay, great. Yes, and it started recording as well.
Well, thank you all for being here on the meeting WebEx early. My name is Berlotte Antoine. I am the chair for the Parks and Beautification Committee, and I also have Ms. Trisha Louison, who is the co-chair for this committee. Was so grateful to chair this meeting, I think more than once when I couldn't make it. Once again, thank you for all of you for the beautiful condolence cards that I received from you. I really appreciate that. And I also send my condolences to Miss Turner. I think she also has a family member who passed. I don't know who else on this group, but I know for sure Miss Turner has a death in her family. And I also send my condolences. Tonight we have two great presentations. The first one is for Mr. Torres as we are getting ready for, oh, I forget to say that I'm calling this meeting to order. Sorry, so I'm calling the meeting to order. It's 7:34 now. We have two great presentations, one from Mr. Torres as we are getting ready to go outside and walk, with the trees and the plants. We need to do the plant that can be poisonous and the prevention that we can, or the precaution that we can take to prevent ourselves and our children from being contaminated. And if something happened, Mr. Torres will tell us what to do next. Following that, we'll have a presentation from Mr. Daniel because we are talking about parks renovation, fundings for the parks. Mr. Daniel will address that. And also, I will present my updates from some of those, old businesses that we had before. We will do the vote for the minutes for the meeting about after the two presentations. Hopefully, we'll have quorum so we can vote for those for the minutes. Without further ado, I will ask Mr. Torres to introduce himself and start with his presentation. Welcome once again, Mr. Torres.
Thank you, Berlotte. Thank you for inviting me today. My name is Eduardo Torres. I work for the New York City Poison Control Center, and our presentation for this evening is called Plant Poisoning Prevention. And without further ado, we'll continue. We don't need that either. All right, so today we're going to discuss the New York City Poison Control Center, indoor plants, outdoor plants, mushrooms, gardening, and different resources are available for you, the community. The Poison Control Center is a free telephone line that's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every day of the year. We never close, okay? So we provide treatment advice and information about unintentional and intentional poisonings. And this is a slight correction here, there are 54 poison control centers in the United States. Okay, so all the information I'm going to tell you about today, you can be anywhere within the continental U.S., including Puerto Rico, and you can call the Poison Center. So this is applicable all over the United States, including Puerto Rico. Okay, so there are about 2 million cases get reported every year all throughout the United States. Those 2 million cases, approximately 50% involves children under the age of 6. Those 2 million cases, about 75% get managed in the home, which is a great number because one of our goals is to help you reduce that unnecessary emergency department visit. Because by unnecessarily going to the emergency department, you can be wasting time, wasting money, and while you're wasting time and money at the emergency department, you can be exposing yourself to an infection you never even had going in. That's why it's important to emphasize, that to learn how to react, know when to call 911 and when to call the Poison Center. It is very simple, something we're going to cover towards the end, but is very, very important. Okay? So we cover the 5 boroughs of New York City, Nassau, Suffolk, and Westchester counties. There is a translation service in 150 languages. All calls are free and confidential, and Everybody that answers the line, it's either a nurse or a pharmacist. They're all certified poison specialists. Okay, they're certified by the American Association of Poison Control Centers. In 2020, there were about 85,000 calls received. Every year it fluctuates between 75, 85, 90,000, somewhere around there. But it's always up in those numbers. And the main thing for you to remember is that everybody that answers the line is either a nurse or pharmacist. All calls are free and confidential. Whether you call at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 1 o'clock in the morning, it will always be that poison specialist, that medical professional that will answer your call for free, and it is confidential. Okay? And of course, as I already mentioned, there is a translation service in 150 languages. So keep that in mind. There are two numbers to call the Poison Center: 1 800 222 1222 or 212 764 7667. Those are the two numbers to reach us. Save them on your cell phone, because you may have the magnet on your refrigerator, but then you go out and something happens, you don't have that number anymore. You want to be able to call as fast as possible so that you can, remedy that situation. One thing though, if you call the 800 number and your phone's area code is not from New York City, Westchester, or Long Island, your call will be routed to the Poison Center that's associated with your area code. Okay, either way, you're going to get the same free service by everybody that answers the line. It's either a nurse or pharmacist, and it's open 24/7. The Poison Center, in a nutshell, is for everyone. It's for everyone, regardless of age, income, or education level. Some of the most common poison exposures are between children and tweens are medicines, antidepressants, batteries, medicines, household cleaners. For adults and older adults, medicines of all types. Other common poison exposures include household products, plants, mushrooms, pesticides, bites and stings, carbon monoxide, and almost anything can be poisonous if it's used in the wrong way, the wrong amount, or by the wrong person. If you suspect a poisoning, don't take a chance. Call us at 1 800 222 1222. Notice it says here if you suspect a poisoning. It doesn't say if you know for certain, because it may be that you maybe touch a plant and you think it may be poisonous, and then it turns out that there was nothing to be concerned about. Even better, at least you called the Poison Center, you spoke to that medical professional for free. Okay, so just keep that in mind. With plant poisonings, each year over 100,000 exposures or plants are reported to the poison centers throughout the United States. The most common problem arises from contact with the sap oil that causes allergic skin reactions. Okay, so it's important to learn how to react. And again, know when to call 911 and when to call the poison center. Children and pets find plants appealing. They may eat leaves, flowers, or seeds. Even non-toxic plants may cause a reaction in some people. Okay, so just keep that in mind. With plant-based products from local store, botanicals, and markets, there are a lot of those products are not regulated by the FDA. They may be harmful if taken in the wrong amount. They may interact or affect your medicines. So that's why it's important to keep that in mind as well with the natural products, with herbals, because a lot of times we tend to take different things thinking, well, if it's natural, it can't harm me. But the thing is that it may cause an allergic reaction, or it may interact or affect the way the medicine that you're already taking and affect you that way. With children and pets, learn which plants are toxic. Choose non-poisonous plants, obviously, label by name. Keep them up high and out of reach, away from children and pets. And don't chew on jewelry made from beans or seeds. One, it can be a choking hazard. And also, you don't know how they were treated. Maybe they were treated chemically, or they may be painted with something that is not exactly a healthy option. With indoor plants, common indoor plants are non-toxic, like lucky bamboo, non-toxic. Some species can be toxic. Make sure the plant you purchased is lucky bamboo. Okay, if let's say the person that's selling it to you is not sure, you can call the poison center and ask. This way, you'll get the professional recommendation because you don't have to have an emergency. Some other non-toxic plants, it could be a fern, wandering Jew, jade, uh, poinsettias. The exposure is usually not dangerous. The ingestion of very large amounts may be toxic. Most common reactions are skin irritation, nausea, vomiting, or diarrhea. So that's why it's important to be aware of these different reactions that are common so that you'll know how to react. If you don't know how to react, you can call the poison center and ask questions. You don't have to wait for an emergency. You can call beforehand. So this way you get the information just in case something happens. Common indoor plants are toxic. Dieffenbachia is a popular ornamental plant. You can find it in hotel lobbies, restaurants, shopping malls. The leaves contain needle-like crystals. When bitten into, it can cause irritation, burning, inflammation. It's not even just when bitten into, because it may be that you're handling that plant and the leaf breaks in half and then it comes in contact with your skin. It causes that irritation, burning, and inflammation. So please be mindful of that. Be very careful. Keep your children away from them. And if you're working with that kind of plant, just handle with care. Maybe wear some protective gloves, long sleeves. This way you're taking additional steps to protect yourself. Philodendron is pretty much the same thing as Dieffenbachia. It's a popular ornamental plant, contains needle-like crystals inside the leaf. Okay, and that can be irritating. It can burn your skin and cause inflammation. Rocana, or another name for their snake plant or mother-in-law's tongue, all parts of the plant are poisonous. The symptoms are vomiting, nausea, burning of the mouth and throat. That can be it sounds very painful, so please be very careful with it. And again, keep your children away from them. Keep your pets away from them. Caladium, elephant's ears, or angel's wings, all parts are poisonous. The symptoms are painful burning and swelling of the mouth, lips, and throat, difficulty breathing, speaking, and swallowing, possible blocked airways. And it's even worse if, let's say, the person already had an existing respiratory issue or any other health issue. It can make it even worse. So just keep that in mind. Pretty plants they're common, colorful, attractive, but they can be very dangerous. Be very, very careful. Pothos is mildly harmful in small quantities. The symptoms are burning of the mouth, swelling of the lips, tongue, and throat, skin irritation, vomiting, and diarrhea. I would say if you have swelling of your lips, tongue, and throat, that's a perfect example of, you should call 911 at that point because you're not able to breathe. So basically, that's how you can tell when to call 911 and when to call the poison center. So let's say somebody chewed on this blunt and nothing happened, no symptoms. You call the poison center immediately. Don't do home remedies. Don't call your friends. Don't call your loved ones. Immediately call the poison center if they have no symptoms. If, let's say, they have burning of the mouth, swelling of the lips, tongue, and throat, vomiting, diarrhea, call 911 without hesitation, especially because they're not able to breathe, they're vomiting, they have diarrhea. Call 911 right away. Take them to the emergency room. Don't do home remedies. Don't give them milk. Don't do whatever else you may think it's going to work, because more than likely it's not going to work and you're wasting time. So the main thing is to learn how to react in a timely fashion so that it's effective and you're saving that life. Okay, chili peppers is used as a spice or ingredient in personal protection sprays. If the pepper or seeds are ingested, it can cause irritation of the lips and mouth. If the chili pepper juice gets in your eyes, it can cause acute inflammation, burning pain, and tears. So of course, we all eat, or most people eat chili peppers, but be very mindful of that, especially cross-contamination. If you use that cutting board, only use it for that purpose. Don't wash it and then let's say cut an orange, because more than likely that juice from the chili pepper is still on there, the knife or anything else. Be very, very careful. Okay, outdoor plants that are non-toxic. Roses, the thorns are sharp and can puncture the skin. If puncture occurs, promptly clean the area with soap and water. As Berlotte mentioned at the beginning, as she was introducing my presentation, she talked about the weather's getting better. We'll start going back out. And as we start going back out, because of the nice weather, the bugs start going back out as well. Spiders, bees, or anything else. Be careful, because it's not just a matter of being concerned about the thorn, it's also the spider or the bee that can be in the rose bush or in the plants. So just keep that in mind, because they will be out there as well. Dandelion, the flowers often attract bees, which may lead to stings. Call the Poison Center for bee sting recommendations. One of the recommendations I can think off the top of my head, if you get stung by a bee and you're not sure if you're allergic or not, the first thing you should do, even if you're sure, just the first thing you should do is take off your ring, take off your jewelry, just in case your hand happens to get swollen. That ring is not going to cut off circulation. Okay, so just keep that in mind. That's a recommendation. You can call for other recommendations from the Poison Center. It's free, it's confidential, and you do not have to have an emergency. Okay, so you can just call, get a recommendation. This way you'll be prepared for any possible situation. Non-toxic plants are like impatiens, African daisy, the tulip is generally non-toxic. If the bulb of the plant is excessively handled, skin irritation or rash may occur. Another recommendation may be wear gardening gloves or long sleeves. Daffodil, moderately toxic, may cause nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. That's only if you ingest large amounts. The symptoms occur in both and pets. Common outdoor plants are toxic. Some common symptoms are nausea, vomiting, drowsiness. Be very careful, especially if let's say you're taking a prescription medication. They all have, for the most part, they have side effects. Then you may be drowsy already because of a medication. And then be careful with the plants that you handle. Lily of the valley, all parts of it are toxic, even in small amounts. Additional symptoms: slow heart rate, low blood pressure, cardiac rhythm disturbances. Who would think from such a pretty plant, right? So please be very, very careful. Call the Poison Center immediately after an exposure happens. Be very, very careful. That's what we emphasize. Call the Poison Center, or when to call the Poison Center, when to call 911, wear protective gloves, even if it's hot out, because it's your health. I'm much rather be inconvenienced by the gloves for a little while and not come in contact with a plant that can cause such serious symptoms. Okay, Azalea, all parts are toxic, even in small amounts. The additional symptoms may be burning, tingling, or numbness of the mouth, slow heart rate, low blood pressure, coma, seizures. Of course, if you have a seizure, call 911 right away. Or if you have slow heart rate or some kind of issue with your mouth, maybe your tongue is getting swollen, your throat, call 911 right away. Okay, and while you wait for the ambulance to come, call the Poison Center so that they can have a recommendation ready. They will stay on the phone with you, let them know what happened, and they will stay on the phone with you until the first responders come, and then the poison specialist will give the first responders a recommendation. Because the unfortunate thing is that not every medical professional out there is trained on how to respond to poisonous situations, and more than likely the emergency department of the first responder, they're going to call us anyway. Okay, so this way you've been proactive and you've taken 2 steps to save that life. Rhododendron, all parts are toxic. Same thing as the other one: burning, tingling, numbness of the mouth, slow heart rate, low blood pressure, coma, seizures. And obviously, you don't do gardening. You don't try to beautify your neighborhood or your lawn, thinking, okay, I'm going to touch this plant or something. I'm going to get into a serious medical issue. So please be very careful. That's what we talk about unintentional poisonings. Okay, because you did not intend for that to happen. Okay, so take the proper steps. Know what you have at home in your garden or what you're going to come in contact with. So this way you can have a better idea of how to respond to that situation. Foxglove, all parts of it are toxic. Again, slow heart rate, low blood pressure, cardiac rhythm disturbances. Call the Poison Center immediately. Save that number on your cell phone. I cannot emphasize that enough. Call the Poison Center, ask questions. This way, you can be reassured that you're talking to that medical professional. It's free. We're open 24/7. We never close. Never. We're always open 24/7 every day of the year. Oleander is the deadliest ornamental plant. Even ingesting honey made from the nectar can produce symptoms. The symptoms are arrhythmia, tremors. Please call the Poison Center. Be very, very careful because sometimes it may be products from different countries that may have something because things are regulated differently in different countries. Just be mindful of that. Be very, very careful. U is found in New York City and surrounding areas. All parts of it are toxic except the red fleshy berries surrounding the seed. The plant is toxic, fresh or dry. Additional symptoms may be abdominal pain, dilated pupils, seizures, cardiac rhythm disturbances, or even death. Believe it or not. Okay, call the Poison Center immediately after an exposure happens. Pokeweed. Don't they look like blueberries or blackberries? Something edible? Please be very careful. If you go camping, if you go hiking and you happen to see that, please don't touch them. That's the reason why I mentioned the lookalike example. They're highly poisonous, the green berries. The purple berries are visually appealing. Additional symptoms are headaches, abdominal pain, sore throat, and oral irritation, foamy diarrhea, agitation, cough, blurred vision, irregular heartbeat. So please be mindful of that. If you go camping, stay away from that. Don't let your children touch it. Even if, let's say, as a child, you were able to do that somewhere else, please don't do that. Okay? Just make sure that don't touch them. My thing is, if you want to eat blueberries or any other berry, I would say go to a farm stand or go to the supermarket and get them. Don't take a chance. Don't put your life at risk. Holly is toxic. The bright red berries are attractive to children. Sharp leaves can puncture your skin. Additional symptoms are diarrhea, abdominal pain. They're very painful. The poison hemlock, it grows along streams and ditches. All parts are poisonous. Additional symptoms may be confusion, rapid heart rate, muscle paralysis, decreased breathing. And if you already, let's say you had an underlying health condition, it can make it even worse. So please be very careful. This is found along streams and ditches. If you go camping, please stay away from that. Even if you suspect it may be that, just stay away from it. I don't think it's worth it. Your life is too valuable, too precious. Morning glory, the vines grow along the ground. The seeds are poisonous. Additional symptoms are hallucinations, dilated pupils, erratic behavior. Okay, bittersweet nightshade. Don't they look like tomatoes they can find at the supermarket or even olives? Be careful. Okay, additional symptoms: diarrhea, headache, increased salivation, muscle cramping. Sounds very painful. Okay, poison ivy. Usually they say leaves in groups of 3. Let it be. Okay, don't touch it. And if, let's say, you see 2, but it looks very similar, the leaf texture looks very similar to this, don't touch it. You may say, well, there's only 2, there's not 3, but maybe it happened that one of them fell off. Okay, all parts can cause an irritating rash on the skin. Let's say you go camping somewhere and you see that they're burning brush or whatever, stay away from that because you can cause difficulty breathing if you inhale the smoke from burning poison ivy. Okay, that's what it looks like. It's very, very painful. You know, you get a rash on your skin sometimes. It's painful. Imagine getting that all over your body, or even worse, if you've inhaled that smoke, will make I don't even want to imagine. All right, so that's another illustration to show you what it looks like, a poison ivy rash. There's poison ivy, poison oak, and poison sumac. Okay, wash your skin well with mild soap and room temperature water. Do not include in the compost bin. Call the poison center right away after exposure happens. Okay, mushrooms may be mistaken for edible mushrooms. Death cap. Unfortunately, they're not labeled out in nature. But the symptoms could be gastrointestinal disorders, jaundice, seizures, coma, because it usually attacks your kidneys right away in a short amount of time. So please be very, very careful. Okay? The liver is the main target organ in addition to your kidneys. This death cap. Funeral bell or deathly gallerinas, with a name like that. It contains the same toxins as death cap mushroom. The symptoms include vomiting, diarrhea, liver failure, kidney failure. Death angel, pretty much the same thing. I'm just going to move along a little faster because I know I'm coming towards the end. Never pick or eat mushrooms from the outdoors. Cooking doesn't make the poison go away. Non-poisonous mushrooms can cause reactions in people who are sensitive to them. Symptoms from eating poisonous mushrooms can be delayed for many hours. So please be very careful. Stay away. The same idea as with the berries before. If you go camping, if they're grown wild in your backyard, don't touch them. If you want mushrooms that badly, I would suggest go to the supermarket or a farm stand, but don't take a chance. With gardening, be careful. Fertilizer safety. If you have any questions, call us. Fertilizer, so you already know, it balances the soil, it provides nutrients and minerals. Most used at home are minimally toxic. But just read the label, make sure that you protect yourself. Insecticides, pesticides, and herbicides are used on the gardening, plants, vegetables, pest controls, and plant diseases. But be careful with the pesticide. With the pesticide, the purpose is to kill. If it kills the bugs, it can kill you. It can kill your children, your pets. Be very quick. Well, be very careful. If let's say you have a product and the label is too small, you can't read it, the print, or maybe it's faded, call us and they'll give you a recommendation. That poison specialist. Always wear protective gear like goggles, gloves, long sleeves, pants, and boots. Avoid pesticide exposure. Wash your hands. Take care of yourself. This is what we were talking about before. Wear protective gloves, long sleeves, and this way you'll be know that you're taking steps to protect yourself. Keep things out of reach, up high and out of reach. Read the instructions. Wash produce and herbs. And of course, after you've done with all that, wash your hands thoroughly. Make sure that you're taking care of yourself. When exposure happens, call the poison center immediately. When the world is in bloom, know what poisons may loom. With swimming pools, the chemicals can be dangerous if mixed together. The same idea inside the home. Don't mix bleach and ammonia because their fumes are very strong and toxic. Teach children to avoid touching or eating wild mushrooms, berries, or plants they find outdoors. Even if you have some plants indoors that you're not really sure, teach children to stay away from them. When using insect repellent, keep it away from the eyes and mouth. Only use the correct amount, the suggested amount. Don't use the whole bottle. And always read lawn chemicals and read their label before you spray anything. The same thing inside the home. If you have a can of Raid, read the label. If you have medicine bottles, read the label. Always read the label. Ask questions because almost anything can be poisonous if it's used in the wrong way, the wrong amounts, or by the wrong person. If you suspect a poisoning, don't take a chance. Call us at 1-800-222-12. Excuse me, I see I'm confusing myself. 1-800-222-1222. Okay? Now, when to call 911? Call 911 immediately if the person's unconscious, having convulsions, having trouble breathing, or any sign of a true emergency. Call the Poison Center for instructions while you wait for the ambulance. That's what I was telling you before. You've been proactive in saving a life. Okay, you've taken 2 steps. Okay, 911, everybody knows that number. You don't have to memorize it. I think it's even programmed in on the phone when you buy it. When you call the poison center as long as the victim is awake and alert, or if you have any suspicion a poisoning has happened, even if you have no symptoms. If you have questions about products or medications, safe use, dosing, side effects, interactions, call the poison center at 212-764-7667 or 1-800-222-1222. Okay, because obviously the poison center is not just about plants, it's not just about pesticides. You can call and ask questions about food poisoning, animal bites, insect bites. You can call about household products, chemicals. Any question you have, call us. There's never a wrong reason to call. Okay, so we have our material available in English, Haitian Creole, Chinese, Spanish, Russian, and Korean. We have Poison Proof Your Home. You can prevent plant poisoning. You can prevent carbon monoxide poisoning. Call your poison center. It might save a life. And Berlot, if you'd like to request the materials, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to ship some of this pamphlet to you, to the community or anybody that's interested in getting our information. Okay, so you can follow us on social media like X, when it used to be called Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Tumblr, and Facebook. We're there for you 24/7. And that is the presentation for today. I hope you found it useful. I know it's a little bit hurried, but just want to be respectful of everybody's time. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Mr. Eduardo. That was such a great presentation, and I will definitely follow up for materials so we can distribute to the community and to the members as well. I think we will have Danielle right after you, but I think we can have 10 minutes with questions and answer. From you, if someone needs to ask a question, please do so now. It seems that I see a hand raised from Mr. George Ted, I believe. Please go ahead and ask your question.
Yes, good evening, Eduardo. I forgot your last name. But thank you for the presentation. It was very, very helpful. And I believe you answered one of my questions was regarding whether or not we would have access to the pictures and all the information that you presented. But I think you said you would send it to Ms. Antoine for distribution.
Yeah, unfortunately, not the presentation itself, but we do have pamphlets available with different resources, and it gives you a list of the different plants that that may be poisonous, and some others are toxic or non-toxic, and when to call the poison center.
Okay, but if we go on the website, we could see the pictures of the like poison ivy.
Yes.
And okay, yeah, thank you. Also,
Yes.
Also, you mentioned that was it you? Well, you one of those plants that the berry was not toxic, but the plant was toxic. Did I
Yes.
understand that correctly?
Correct.
Okay, so if a child put the berry in his mouth, it may not be necessarily.
Yeah, but even then, I would still be I would be concerned because there may be a pesticide. It may be, you never know what could be on that plant, because even the soil may be contaminated.
Yeah,
so
because
that's another.
Okay, because
Yes, go ahead.
I was under the impression that the whole thing was poisonous. You know?
Right.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, especially with children, I would say that it's better to just treat the whole thing as something to stay away from. So this way, because you don't want them to put something in their mouth and then it turns out that there was pesticide on it or whatever else. So it's better to just keep them away from the plant, or even for yourself. Don't take any chances, because a lot of times people think, well, I've done this before, nothing happened. But you have to be very mindful of that. Just stay away from things. Don't put it in your mouth, because You just never know.
Okay. And
That's a great
one,
question.
yeah, and one
Thank you,
last thing is,
Mr. Chet.
yeah,
Oh,
just one
sorry.
more, yeah, just one more thing. It's not plants related, but I'm talking about the mothballs. Is that considered, because I know I had an incident, uh, my breathing was bad, and I was the other day, and I was trying to figure out what's going wrong. But then I realized my wife had put some mothball inside the house, and when I looked it up,
Well, and that's a chemical. And if it's causing
yeah,
you respiratory issues, call the poison center.
okay,
Call the poison center and ask, or even talk to your doctor about it. But I did see a question about animals. That's another thing. You can call about your pets. Let's say your dog or your cat got into some of your products, or maybe ate a plant that they shouldn't have, or they're chewing on a mushroom. You can call the poison center. They're the
thank
same
you.
number I gave. You can call the poison center, and this way, if they have that information available, they'll be more than happy to provide it, because it's a matter of saving that life as well.
I also see a question for Miss De Costa. I don't know if Miss Adele want to ask the question, but you will just answer for her. Miss Adele, you still want to talk, or that's fine? Maybe she
No,
can't.
that's fine. That's fine. I put it in the
Okay,
chat. He read it.
Yeah.
okay,
But the
thank you.
rest of the question, is there a vet in the area that would specifically handle that type of poison for an animal, a cat or a dog?
See, Ms. Adele, I saw your question about what about cats and dogs, or dogs and cats rather. Is there a veterinary doctor that handles poison plant ingestion? That's what I was saying. You can call our poison center, the same number
Okay.
I gave you, and ask the question. And if they have that information, they'll be more than happy to give it to you.
All right.
Thank
They'll
Thank
you.
you.
be
And
whatever recommendation they have, they'll give it to you. And maybe, and this is the same thing with us, with humans, right? So let's say you call the poison center because you think something happened, and then it turns out nothing happened. You'll get the reassurance from that medical professional that it's okay. If they deem necessary that you need to go to the emergency room, they will assist you in calling 911 and making sure that you get that information, that the proper care.
All right. Thank you.
I recognize Danielle Irida from Councilwoman Farah Lewis. So we will take two more questions, and then I will pass it on to Danielle. Ms. De Costa, I saw your hand long time ago. Go ahead with your
Hi.
question.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I had a question about the pokeweed because I've noticed that
Okay.
in the last 2 to 3 years, I guess, it's been popping up a little bit more in my yard. How would you suggest we remove it? Should we just leave it, or like what's the best way to remove it without compromising your health?
Oh, well, I'm sorry, I didn't get the first part, Ms. Da Costa.
I was saying that I've noticed pokeweed has been popping up in my garden and just kind of around the perimeter of my yard
Oh, I
in the
see.
last like 2 to 3 years, and I really want to try to remove it, but I've had a hard time getting it out of the ground. What do you recommend, since it's
I
poisonous?
would
Like, what
suggest that you
would
call
you
the poison
recommend?
center and
Hmm.
ask them for a recommendation.
Okay.
Okay?
All
I
right.
will,
Thank you.
because that's what they're there for, to provide that kind of information, because it's your health. You don't want to go in and just start grabbing stuff and then you end up with an allergic reaction or anything else. So they will be able to provide that information for you if you call 1-800-222-1222. And just remember, you
Thank
don't
you.
have to have an emergency. You can call for that kind of information. You can avoid some accident. Did I answer your
And I
question?
don't know if there is any more questions.
Hmm.
Yes, that did. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Um, Thank you, Mr. Torres. Any follow-up question for Mr. Torres before I let him go? And keep in mind that I will forward the information for you for the website he said. And I will work with him to have printed materials so you can also get access to those information, because I can see that people love the presentation, because we'll be interacting with plant soon. It's very important for us to have this information. Any more questions for Mr. Torres? Going once, going twice. Let's see if there is anything in the chat room. Did you answer the question about veterinary doctor, Mr. Torres? I was not following that.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
People can call the 800 number, 1-800. I'll put it in the chat, 1-800-222-1222. And that's the other thing too. You have to be mindful of ticks. If let's say you go camping, you have to be mindful of ticks and how to remove that tick, and not just for yourself, but let's say you bring your dog. You have to make sure that you check them, because you don't want that that bug attached to your children, to yourself, or to your dog. So that's
And
another.
also, I saw that you put your number on the in the chat, so people can copy that number, and I will definitely follow up. Anything else you want to add, Mr. Torres, before I move on to Mr. Daniel?
No, I wanted to thank you, Berlot. It's always nice seeing you. And also, just don't be afraid. Don't be embarrassed. That's the one thing I would like to live off with. Just don't be afraid. Don't be embarrassed, because the unintentional poisoning can happen to anybody. I have had to call myself for the poison center. And this is plant related. My wife told me to close the window one day, to close the curtains. She has a lot of plants, and one of the leaves poked me in the eye. It was burning so much. And I had to call the poison center, and told me to just rinse it with water, and it felt brand new. Because actually, what I did, I put Visine in it. It made it worse. So just call the poison center. Don't be afraid. Nobody's going to judge you. Nobody's going to criticize. We're just there for you, so you can avoid that unnecessary trip to the emergency room. Okay? Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good
Thank
evening.
you. Have a good evening. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure for us to have you. And I
Thank you.
hope that you can come back. And I hope that
Oh,
people will use this number. People can
I would love to
ask
come back.
questions. Yes, I will definitely call you again. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Look forward to it.
Thank
Have
you.
a good evening.
Have a good evening too. I will do a quick roll call. When I call your name, you can just unmute and just say good evening, so I know that you are here. I will call the name on the screen. I have Judith Aarons. I don't know if I pronounce it well. Can you unmute and just say hi? I see Judith. I don't know how to pronounce the last name correctly. Aarons. I didn't hear you. I have Miss Adele Bennett.
Good evening.
Good evening, Miss Ann Hudson.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Miss Audrey Henderson.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Brida Costa.
Good evening, everybody.
Cheryl Saunders.
Good evening.
Jacqueline Williams. How are you?
Good evening. How are you?
Good. Jod Tet.
Good evening, all.
Good evening, Nicole. Trisha Lewison. Good evening. And I see Vionetta.
Vanetta. Good evening.
Vionetta. Good evening. So, and the last one is Mr. Daniel Herrera from Councilwoman Farah Lewis. You have the floor. Good evening, Daniel.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Chair Antoine, for allowing me to speak tonight. Very informative last session, so really do appreciate our agencies coming out to speak with us all this evening. For those who don't know, my name is Daniel Heredia. I am the Legislation and Communications Liaison for Councilmember Farah Lewis of the 45th District. Pleasure to see you all tonight. Sorry, I'm still in transit. I can't turn on my camera just yet. But basically, I was asked to provide a quick summary of some of the projects that we are currently in the process of funding. In the February meeting, I had shared with this committee that right now, especially when it comes to what a lot of folks in the community in CB17 are asking about, that is updates to Tilden Playground. So I do want to share some news and some updates about where we are with some capital investments at that park. But firstly, I just wanted to give an overview quickly. It was requested by the council member to make sure I covered all of the different parks that are in CB17 that are in our council district, just to make sure that everyone knows what Councilmember Lewis covers and how we can make sure that we are doing our advocacy to all the other elected officials in the community so then we can support all of our institutions like our parks. So firstly, right now, the main project update that we want to share is that Councilmember Lewis actually met with Commissioner Martin Maher. Martin Maher, he is the Brooklyn Commissioner for Parks, to talk about outstanding budget items. The biggest one right now is the Shirley Chisholm Recreational Center. That's taking place obviously in Nostrum Playground. They gave us a positive update that they are on budget and on track to open later this year. Throughout the construction process, we've had received a number of different complaints and concerns about how the construction is affecting the usability of Nostrum Playground, really them having to close down the basketball courts for many weeks at a time due to old drainage and flooding conditions that were causing issues there. So it's been much more improved now that they were able to solve the issue. There was a lot of delays associated with that, but we were given on the call an update that construction is scheduled to complete during fall of this year, which is on schedule. The next park that is the big one that is in our community is obviously Pattergate Park. So the major updates there is that a lot of people contacted our office requesting information on why they had closed the pathway along the Foster Avenue entrance of the park. Obviously, folks know now that was a DEP restoration project. Basically, because of all the flooding that takes place in CB17, they were installing underground aquifers to make sure that could collect excess drainage from the Clarendon Road corridors, Portillo Road corridors, all the way down to Foster and Farragut. So that would collect water, and for that reason, they had closed that. They had closed that section of the park to install those, but that capital project is obviously coming to a close, and soon they are now in the process of implementing new funding that was sourced back in 2022 by the mayor at the time, and that is going to be put into place starting this year, next year. That's an update that we are very excited to do, as those basketball courts do need revitalization. In terms of the council members' funding, this is the part that I know Chair Antoine wanted me to share what's going on with the other parks in the community. Basically in FY25, because of all of the concerns that were brought to our office about the condition of some of our outer borough parks, especially Tilden Playground, which has not really received any capital attention in many years, we were actually able to shift in a budget mod $175,000 to revitalize tree planting in the area. Later last year, we conducted a walkthrough myself of folks who lived on East 48th and 49th Streets. That's Linda Turner, that's Berlat Antoine also came out. Thank you so much for that. And we came out with Danielle Goldfarb, who's the parks manager, to try to see what things could be done to improve the conditions there. Really, with the overgrown weeds, with the raised sidewalks, with the messed up roller skating area asphalt, and some of the other conditions at that playground. We were actually able to budget what it would take to add additional staff to that park, and that ended up coming out to $175,000 for the year, which we were able to source from another DOE related project. That was the big change for FY25. Now, at this moment, Councilmember Lewis is still working on fighting for additional funding for both to fully fund the Pattergate Park renovations. They have asked us for additional funding to complete the basketball courts there. So we're still in the process of seeing what can we move around in Councilmember Lewis's allocation to fully fund the basketball courts. Because the issue is that the $5.5 million that was associated then they're telling us it's no longer enough to fully fund that park. So we're in the process of fighting for that, as well as seeing how much it will actually cost to redo some of the bigger components in Tilden Playground. The last major playground renovation Councilmember Lewis conducted was a Sunners Playground, which is in the CB18 area, if folks are familiar. It is right off of Kings Highway on the intersection of 40th Street and Avenue I. That project came out to over $6 million. So, and that was over the course of many years and was obviously delayed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We're hoping that if we do something at Tilden Playground and fund it this year, it will come out to be lower than that. Right now, we are still in the process of trying to secure that funding and making sure that we can get some projects started as early as beginning of next year. Just to close out the big technical numbers here, I wanted to also share that because these are the main playground items, we want to make sure that CB17 is doing what they need to be doing to advocate. So we understand that OMB, who is the Office of Management and Budget, let us know that CB17 didn't include Tilden in their budget priorities to OMB. So right now, what Jax Jiha, which is the budget director for the mayor, has advised our office is to have more people from the community advocate directly to the OMB to make sure that we get those parks prioritized, especially Tilden Playground, because we want to make sure that we at least fund half of the project this year, and that can only happen with the help with the CB17 community advocating for it. So I will make sure to put a link in this chat, but I wanted to highlight that the city council in this budget process is actually doing a budget hearing for the Department of Parks and Recreation. That meeting will be taking place on March 17th of this month at 1 p.m. at City Hall. And it would be great to have folks from the community actually testify directly to the budget office to make sure that we can help and prioritize these critical things. So I'll make sure to put that in the chat, as well as some other information that I've shared tonight. And I'm happy to answer any questions about how we can make sure our parks get fixed in the coming years. Thank you, Chair, for allowing me the opportunity to speak tonight.
Yeah, thank you, Danielle, and also send my thank you to Councilwoman Lewis for listening to our, demands, because we have been advocating for Children Park and the other parks for a long, long time ago. And I think on this call, I have Jacqueline Williams, who also participate in the walkthrough. She can testify and tell us about Tilden Park and the things that need to be done. And I think for the advocating to have Tilden Park, I think we can work on that. If this was not done previously on the budget, we can work on that because we have a couple of people here who live close to Tilden Park, including Ms. DaCosta. She is a advocate also for Tilden Playground. I don't know if there is a question for you, but I know those two items. I will follow up with you. If you put the link on the chat, then I can follow up. Ms. Bennett asked a question. She wanted to know what time is the meeting on the 17th?
Yes, it will be taking place at 1 p.m. That's at 1 p.m. at City Hall. That is the executive budget hearing that the City Council is conducting. One of many, many, many that's happening this month. This council member will be at City Hall for most of this month because she is a member of the Finance Committee. But the one that is on Parks is March 17th at 1 p.m. at City Hall. Anyone can come. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions for Danielle? Because I know parks renovation, it's something that we are fighting for for a long time. And it's always something saying that there is no money. So I'm glad that tonight you mentioned that something can be done. However, we still have more to do. Any question for Danielle on, especially on Tilden Park? Danielle, you mentioned Tilden Park and also Prodigy. Quick question while I'm waiting for other people to ask question. Do you have money for Tilden Park and not for Prodigy and not for Tilden? Please clarify this little portion for me because I kind of didn't get it right.
No problem. It's my pleasure. Yes. So basically, the way it works is that every project has to be priced out. They have to give us a quote on how much they expect it to cost. So so the funding that came in 2022, that was when the council member, that was actually her first full term as a city council, well, second full term as a city council member, where she had asked the mayor to put in $5.5 million for redoing the basketball courts and the pathways at Pattergate Park. Right now, what they're saying is because there was some pandemic related delays, which pretty much every single park in the city went through this, we may have to add funding, meaning that we may have to say pull funding from a school, pull funding from another capital thing, pull funding from a street reconstruction to find money that the council member would otherwise allocate within Council District 45 to go to Pattergate Park to finish that project. That is just a small nuance there, but that's basically saying they've already got some of the money. They're asking us for more money. For Tilden Playground, we are still trying to get them to work on what is the most priority thing. The issue that happens with a lot of capital projects is that the Parks Department would rather completely shut down Tilden Park, Tilden Playground, and redo everything at once. They would rather put it in that one big package, redo the rollerblading area, redo the playground, redo the storyboards, the concrete in the ground, and redo all the trees around it. They can do that because it ends up being slightly cheaper. But the problem is that's why we're in the situation where they've been saying for years it's going to be over $20 million to scope out an entire new playground. It's impossible. What we're trying to do is to fight to get the Parks Department to repair just the most critically needed parts of the playground just to get it usable again, to redo the rubber matting, to redo the asphalt, try to make something more reasonable so we can at least get something done for the community without having to shut it down for 5 years. So I hope that clears up the discrepancy there.
There was a question or a comment on the chat that said we need better and cleaner parks. Quick question. I know that there is a cut in personnel for the parks. Is there is a
I believe Berlat might have disconnected.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Oh, there she is.
Yes.
Here you go.
Yeah, no. I said that I saw a comment on the chat. Someone asked for clean parks. So I wanted to know if the councilwoman can advocate for us for more personal, because I think that's an issue actually with city parks.
Yes, great question indeed. So basically, just for a little bit of background, we had actually sought to fix this issue last year, and well, specifically FY25, which is the year that we are in. It starts in July, goes to June. That's basically the New York City's fiscal year. We attempted to solve this in FY25. The City Council had an initiative that was called Second Shift. Most of the times, the parks staff only go out to most of these outer borough parks. And I mean outer borough meaning they're not Prospect Park, they're not Central Park, talking about our parks, right, in our communities. Second Shift was an initiative so then we'd actually have them come out twice a day or even 3 times a day and have to pay additional staff to do that. It existed very briefly in FY24. That unfortunately did not survive one of the mayor's cuts when he was trying to cut the budget in FY25. So the council member is fighting for Second Shift to come back again. That's the name of the program, to have enough parks personnel and hire enough and retain enough so that they can actually visit parks multiple times a day. Because especially for Tilden Playground, it's lucky if they get served once a day. We have to fight at another park in the district, Amersfoort Park. They used to tell us once a week is acceptable, which obviously is not. So the council member is fighting, and it would be good as if many people, because many people in other neighborhoods do go to those budget hearings and do advocate, but we need folks from East Flatbush also advocating for the budget to make sure that we actually get that Second Shift program passed this fiscal year and the mayor doesn't cut it again.
Thank you, Danielle. I saw several hands. I don't because I was disconnected. I don't know who came first, but I will just call someone. I saw Judith on my list first. I don't know if she was first, but I saw the name first. Yes.
Hi, thank you. And sorry, I had technical difficulties. I couldn't say hello before. I just had a quick question about Tilden Park because when I went by there recently to look at the tennis court, it looked in perfect condition. So if they do, I mean, like I would support what you're saying about just doing certain areas of the park rather than shutting down the whole park.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, definitely. I mean, what we went through with, and it was actually the council members' very first capital project, kind of a rude awakening. This was funded back in 2019. Sunner's Playground. There was a number of funding that was committed by both the mayor, Bill de Blasio, actually from old funding, as well as the council members' local funding to redo Sunner's Playground. That park was closed until 2023. Which was ridiculous. It was supposed to be a 1-year closure. So, and they had obviously they redid everything, but Tilden Playground is such an important resource that there's no more green space. You know, CB17 has the least amount of green space across the city by community board. So we wouldn't want to have the entire playground closed for so long. So that's what the council member is trying to push to split the contract so we can get something done, at least fix the playground, the rollerblading area, etc.
And I will ask Miss Jacqueline William to go next.
Yes, I'm very concerned, have been advocating for Tilden Park because as you said, it is really very neglected. But I'm just having difficulty I think I might have misunderstood you, Daniel. You said that $175,000 have been allocated for tree planting.
That is correct. Well, so basically it's tree planting and maintenance. So we allocate it to the community board and basically they have to make a discretion and we wanted to allocate that's funding that's going in effect this year. And it'd be good to know whether they actually send more people out there because we wanted to address some of the weeds and some of the overgrownness and the trees that were there.
Okay, because I don't know, I know when I look at Pradigat and Tilden, and you indicated it is the most elected, it hasn't been done in I don't know how many years. I'm glad that there will be a budget hearing, and I will definitely try and make it because we need, that park is really underserved. It's underserved. I mean, the paint peeling of paint on in the playground area for the children, the water fountains. It's a park that really needs to be addressed. So I just have difficulty understanding, but I know what you're saying, and I understand how getting things through a budget, getting budget approved work, but it's really something that Tilden Park really needs to be on a priority.
Right. Thank you for sharing that again. I will make sure that that information is there so we can get as many people out from East Flatbush to actually attend these hearings and make sure that we are not forgotten in this budget fight for FY26.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. I have Trisha Luison for a question. Trisha, go ahead.
Sorry, I put it in the chat, but I was adding to Adele's question about the cleaner parks and just asking about the green spaces like around trees.
Sure. Would someone be able to just read that out to me, Chair Berlat? Would that be
Yes.
possible?
Yeah, she said to add to Adele's question, cleaner green areas also. There's also a lot of dumping around trees, if that relevant. So I guess the question might be how we can solve or prevent the dumping around the trees. I think that's the question, Miss Trisha, right?
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Great, thank
Yeah.
you so much for that. So glad we brought this up. In FY24, which was the previous year, a previous fiscal year spanning from the July of 2022 to FY23, and the following year, the council member allocated some money for tree guards. Now, if you have specific areas that you are, I mean, I'm assuming you're referring to street trees and dumping in street trees. So I'm just talking about the tree guards things, right? So that's definitely something that we want to do more of. If you have locations that you think specifically, let's say you're talking about your block and you have like a block association, you have a group of neighbors, that will help us know and help Councilmember Farrah Lewis know which block associations are trying to organize around trees. We were actually able to help last year get the Tilder Block Association, which is by East 31st to East 32nd Street, by Beverly and Clarendon Road. So that's more in the northwest side of CB 17, I guess. We actually helped them get over 20 tree guards. We also got some funding for tree guards around Tilden Playground, which hopefully that will start coming out very soon. So basically, we are able to put away some money for tree guards every year. If you could just reach out to our office, if you have specific locations, we'll put you on a list so we can get that through.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you, Danielle. I don't want to keep you so long, but I have so many questions for you. You will have to stay 10 more minutes at least. I have Mr. John Ted for a question. Mr. Ted, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Ray, two clarifications. One is a follow-up to Jackie Williams' question regarding the $175,000. Just to clarify, is that just for the maintenance of the trees? I mean, for the trees and maintenance of the trees only for Tilden Park?
It is for both planting and it's, well, technically it's for both planting and maintenance. And the funding is mostly for Tilden, but there's also some exceptions with it. So we had asked to put enough funding specifically so that it can maintain the area around the trees. There's also a tree that's on the north side of the park that is completely disrupting the concrete.
Right.
And Parks told us that that actually needs to be a capital project, because in order to redo it, they have to completely, whatever, redo the sidewalk, whatever. So that is funding for that specifically. There's some other parts in the park for like plantings and stuff that money would go to as well.
You must have read my mind, because that was where I was coming to regarding that raised sidewalk that's been there for about 5-6 years.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, my other question was regarding the tree guards. And you mentioned, because I know they planted a lot of about 8 to 10 trees on my block last year, but we didn't get any tree guards. But you mentioned something about block associations. Does it have to be a block? Because the block association on my block is not working. But we do need the tree. Well, we don't have a working one. Let me put it that way. Okay, and but we do need those tree guards around here. Can we request three guards for the block without having a block association that's working?
Sure, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't, what it means to have a block association. It doesn't need to, be a super duper thing. The point is that your neighbors can organize to, whether that's collecting letters and sending it to us and, demanding funding for a tree guard on your block. That's all I mean, because what happens a lot of the time, not to be crude, but this happened actually on Ocean Avenue a couple of years ago, because we also gave CB14 a bit of funding for tree guards there. Someone on the block had requested tree guards and Parks Department was ready to come out, but almost everyone else on the block was upset by this, mainly because they have a lot of dogs that they may have wanted to use the tree pits as whatever. So, which is why it helps just to make sure that we're good and the Parks Department is good to have support from the entire block. So it doesn't have to be a formal thing, but just consensus.
I think the
Okay,
two
so
last
like a
questions.
petition. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. The two last questions, one will go back to Miss DeCosta. Miss DeCosta, go ahead. And I see Judith again. So DeCosta and then Judith.
Okay.
I have my hand up.
I just wanted to first just thank Daniel for coming and giving us the update. I know the last time you came and you talked about the tree guards, I was pretty frustrated because I too, like Miss Williams, really feel passionate about Tilden getting the upgrade that the community deserves, and it's unfortunate to hear that it could even take 5 years for that to happen because my kids will no longer be playing at the park in 5 years. So. So I wondered, similar to what was asked, like how if the projects can be done one section at a time versus it being all done at once, although I understand why the suggestion would be to do it all at once. But then my other question was, if we cannot make the hearing, is it possible to submit some sort of letter or something like that, if we can't attend in person?
Yes, so two great questions. Let me just touch on the first one first, if I remember correctly. Certainly, contracting in the city is one of the worst things anyone could ever do because of how long it takes for the city to, you know, find vendors, do a bid, start the project, and for most projects, the city has to hire three different people. They have to hire an architect, and then they have to hire an engineer, and then they have to actually hire the contractor. Design, build is only just starting. So it takes forever to do these contracts, and I get your frustration there. That's mainly why we want to sort of break it into smaller things, because if we are able to break it up, the city will have more flexibility to say, okay, in this year, we are going to renovate with new playground equipment. This year, we're going to completely resurface the rollerblading and areas in the handball courts. And in another year, we can also redo the plumbing, lighting, and for new lights within the park for safety, as well as the water fountains. Splitting up that way is something other communities have done, and it's time for us to start doing that as well. As for submitting testimony, to the council and to OMB, yes, it is actually very much possible to submit written testimony for the hearing. I will put those instructions in the chat as well.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. And I think Miss Adele said that. Oh no, Miss Judith first, and then Miss Adele. It was up to. Miss Judith, you go first, and then Adele after.
Okay, I just had a quick question about that tree guard. Is it surrounding the tree itself or surrounding the tree pit? Is that the type of tree guard you're talking about?
Yes, so the city will, for about 10 grand a pop, will install, yes, very expensive, will install it around the tree pit. So it is a metal frame that's on three sides of the tree that faces the sidewalk.
Oh, okay. All right, because I just wondered because there are tree guards around trees on Fulton Street in Bed-Stuy, and the trees actually grew into the tree guards because the city put it in, but then they didn't take it out. They relied on the whoever was on that street to do that. So a lot of those trees are kind of have grown into those metal, so it was kind of like a waste of money. So just I just wanted to know whether or not it was gonna be the same kind of arrangement because it just wasn't, it wouldn't, it's not right.
Certainly. Great question, of course. What we're told by the Parks Department of Parks and Recreation is that the new trees that they're planting they give them a deeper plot, and they also make the tree pits larger, so the trees can actually grow much more than the old pits, because most of the old pits, as soon as the tree gets, say, 10 to 20 years old, it's destroying the sidewalk and going into people's sewers and causing all sorts of problems. The new ones that they are planting have a lot more space. They use a lot more sidewalk space to make sure that doesn't happen. So let's say, for example, on Mr. Tate's block, for instance, those new pits will be able to accommodate that tree without any issues for probably over 50 to 70 years. Whereas an old pit, it would have already started screwing up his sidewalk at 20, 25 years, which is what we see a lot of the time. As for Fulton Street, I would probably put my money on the fact that there's a business improvement district there, and they should have the funding to replace it if they wanted to. So that might be a separate matter for Fulton Street because I know they have a lot of business improvement districts that would have probably paid for the tree guard in the first place there.
And I also have, thank you, Danielle, for staying that long. I also have Miss Bennett with a question. Miss Bennett, go ahead.
Hi, yes, good evening, Daniel. My question is, any way that they can put larger signage in these parks for the no smoking? Because I've been in several of the parks, and these people are smoking weed there. So I have to get up and walk away, and people have to move their children away. They need larger signage for that. Is it
Totally
possible?
makes sense. I think that is definitely something we can put in as a bill, as legislation. Parks will. I don't know exactly how much it'll change behavior, but I'll certainly put that in, pose that into council members to see if she would like to introduce as legislation.
Thank you, because one guy told me, I said, do you see the sign? He said he can't read it. He don't care. I'm just sitting there smoking weed. So I got up and walked away. He said, little babies. Thank you.
No worries.
Bye-bye.
I also saw a question about bus. Someone asked if there will be a bus that will take people to the city hall hearing. I think whoever posted that, let me see.
Yeah,
Yes.
just to answer the question. It's not really a concerted thing. This is just a hearing. I mean, they do this every year. But my point is this month is that since it's happening in the next couple of weeks, it is a priority as we are already trying to advocate for more funding for CB17. I don't believe there's a bus, but however, pretty much every train line in the city of New York, except for maybe the G, will take you there. 2, 3, 4, 5 to 4 or 5 to Brooklyn Bridge City Hall, 2, 3 to Fulton Street, and any other trains that will get you there has a City Hall station.
Thank you, Danielle. I don't want to keep everybody for too long. There is two things on the chat that I want you to be aware of. Eduardo Torres number for the Poison Control Center. Please have that. Danielle, I don't know if you want to put anything on the chat or if you want to share any other comment before I let you go. I also put the link for our chat group. Also like the park community chat. We have a WhatsApp group, sorry, and I put the link in the chat. So Danielle, anything else for us?
That is all. I am putting the link in the chat now, as well as the instructions to submit a written testimony to OMB to try to get some funding in. And with that, thank you so much, Chair Antoine, for the opportunity to speak tonight. And on behalf of Councilmember Farrell Lewis, I wish you all a great evening.
Yeah, thank you so much. So now it's 8:51. I know usually I don't like to keep you too long. I will ask if I can get a motion to move the rest of the item on the agenda for our next meeting. If I can have someone to have this motion for me to move the rest of the agenda to our April meeting. Can I have a motion to move the rest of the agenda to the next meeting?
George State make a motion to move the rest of the agenda to the April meeting.
Thank you. Can I have someone to second?
This is Bernard, I second it.
Thank you so much. And now, in closure, I will say it was a great pleasure to have you all. Information will come to you. Please follow up with the information from Danielle because it's really important. We have been advocating for those parks for so long. And Mr. Costa, Ms. Jacqueline, Mr. Ted, you know what we have been going through. And I'm so grateful that Danielle was here and so kind to provide those updates, because we actually need to be very proactive to get what we want. Thank you. I also want to let you know that on March 7th, me and the chair, we will we will have a meeting with council member Banks regarding Redwood Park. I don't know, some of you visited Redwood Park with me and you saw that this park is really, it's something else besides children as well. So we will have a meeting to see what can be done in this, park. And we will have other parks that we will be visiting and then try to meet with the elected officials for that. Will cover that particular park, just like Daniel was able to provide some update. We need to know what is happening for what type of funding is available for these other parks. Any question for me before I go to this meeting? Do you want me to raise any question? Some of you who visited the Wildwood Park, do you remember anything? Is there anything that you would love me to put on my question list for that meeting with council member Banks? Anything at all? Let me see if there is any hands or anything for me. Nothing. Yeah, sorry. Yes, you can go.
What about putting more plants in these parks? Foliage would be nice.
It's hard for me. I don't know if someone else can hear what Miss Bennett just said,
More plants.
because
More
I couldn't hear
plants.
you. You can put it in the chat. Put it in the chat. For some reason, when you speak, your voice is kind of muffled. You can put that on the chat, and I can read it. Any other question or comments before I ask for a motion to adjourn? Oh, Miss Adele wanted to have more plants. Okay, so that I will put that as a question, as a request during the meeting, and see what can be done for that, because that's we need that. Let me see one more. Yeah, so that's the more plants. Okay. If there is nothing, it's 8:54. I will ask for a motion to adjourn this meeting. Okay, I see green up our parks. Okay, I will put that as well. Any more questions before I ask for a motion to adjourn? Green once, green twice. So it was a great pleasure for me to have you here. I saw new faces, and I'm grateful for that. Thank you for all of those who made it until close to 9. I will see you again in April. Remember, we are planning those meetings and trainings because summertime will be coming and we'll be doing some planting and cleaning of the parks. But we also need to have some, renovation in our parks. So we not only do cleaning, but we want renovation. So thank you for your kind words as well during my difficult time. I really appreciate all the cards that I received and all those, beautiful words of, condolences. Thank you so much. And now I will ask for a motion to adjourn this meeting. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Nobody want to make a motion to adjourn? Thank you. Can I have someone else to second? Can I have someone to second?
Janetta, I second it.
Second motion.
Oh my God, I heard a couple of voices. So let's have one. Can I have Can I have someone to second? Let me see. I saw Mr. Tate was talking.
Bree
Miss
DeCosta
Jacqueline.
seconds the motion.
Ms. DeCosta made the motion to adjourn the second the motion. Thank you so much. And thank you, Ms. Farah, for coming to this meeting and then coming early for us to test the PowerPoint presentation for Mr. Eduardo. Hopefully, I will see all of you at the next meeting. And for now, I will say goodbye to you all and thank you again for being a member of the Parks and Beautification Committee. Bye-bye all.
Good
Good
night,
night.
everyone.
Good night.
Good
Thank you.
evening, everyone.
Blessed evening, everyone.
Good night.
Good evening. Good evening.